Yay, da, yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 yay, yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 da. Yay, da, 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 yay. Ya, da, 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 yay, yay, da, 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 da. Yay, ya, da, 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 yay.
Welcome everyone to Shalvah this week, and we don't have a text this week because we're talking about something maybe a little bit hard to put your finger on, which is this idea of joy, of Simcha. We're here in the month of Adar, the first month of Adar. We have two this year, the month where we're taught by the rabbis that we should be happy. And there are a lot of places in Jewish tradition where we're told to be happy. Even some teach that it's a mitzvah, a commandment, to be happy. And it all treats happiness less as a matter of our reactions to external stimuli and more as a sort of choice, maybe even a habit of heart or a habit of mind to be happy. And maybe we all know people who, despite what seem to us to be good circumstances in their lives, good things happening for them, they seem never to be happy. And we know the opposite. We know people to whom really difficult things, really challenging things have happened in their lives, and yet they always seem to be happy. And how do they do that? How do we manage that, especially when external circumstances don't prompt us to feel the joy welling up inside of us? So I think there really is something to this very ancient idea that at certain times of year, holidays, certain events, that we should be happy. And it's not should in the sense of making us feel bad if we don't happen to feel happy that day. It's that we have to do it. Happiness is something we can do. You know, all in Hebrew, all adjectives are actually also nouns. I'm sorry, also actually verbs. So we can do happiness. To be happy is sort of a verb. And so how do we get ourselves to be happy? And if we think about, of course, ancient times and the story of the Jewish people from then until now, we're thinking about a people who didn't have a lot of external circumstances that went their way. And we certainly know from our own times that there are things about being Jewish and being part of a Jewish community that are really, really challenging. The external world can be challenging. Anti-Semitism, resurgent in our time, can be challenging to us. And of course, the things like disease and the inequality of our world, the hate we see in our world, all of those can drag us down. So I think the tradition gives us two different things to do in order to do the verb of being happy. One of them is to look to the past, is to look to times in Jewish history, but even maybe times in our own lives, and in some way to relive those times. That's the month of Adar, this time before the spring, where we tell the story of Purim, and a time when there was a sense of joy. That's a way of looking back and re-experiencing that time. Even Pesach, which follows, and the idea of re-experiencing the movement from slavery to freedom, is about recapturing the joy of being free. And we know from psychological research that when we actually relive something in our minds, it actually has an effect on our bodies and our hearts. It actually takes us back to that time. So I think that's one method we have to do that. How do we do happy? Is to think back on times in our people's history that were times of happiness and joy, but also to think back for ourselves, to think back on joyful moments that we've had in the past, happy times that we've experienced, and re-experience those, not in the sense of, oh, we should be sad because they're gone, but in the sense of just feeling that joy again, and feeling maybe the presence of people we love, maybe being in a particular spot in nature, all things that can, as they say, spark joy in us. We can re-experience those actually at any time through that amazing miraculous blessing of memory. The second thing, which is probably the harder one, is to look around in our lives and inside ourselves and find those times where we can identify something joyful, even amidst pain, even amidst difficulty. And we've seen that, I think, a lot during this pandemic, where as much as we all have experienced the isolation and fear, and for some of us, unfortunately, illness and suffering, there have been things that we can find, and we sometimes, I think, shy away from talking about the good things that come out of bad times, but that's actually also a strong Jewish tradition of finding the good things happening even in the worst of times. And we have these heroic examples of people in the worst times in our people's history, from the Roman persecutions to the Holocaust, finding moments to celebrate, moments to hold up, times of joy that they can experience, even if for a short time. So in our thank God, less intense circumstance, even within the pandemic, we too can look around in our lives and find that place of joy. It doesn't mean that the other parts of our lives don't exist, and it doesn't mean that they aren't important. It means that we can capture those things, capture those times, those joyful things, whether it's being able to be in contact with people who wouldn't have before the pandemic because of this miracle of Zoom, whether it's finding time for pursuits that have enabled us to grow in different ways during the pandemic. I think all of these are little sparkles, little moments of joy that we can capture even while we acknowledge the difficulty that we're in. And just the very last thing I'll say is that, and I've talked about this before, but we have a long and beautiful midrashic tradition to teach us that human beings are complicated, and that we have the ability to feel so many things at once. And we have the ability to feel joy and to feel pain and to feel anger and to feel worry. All those things, we can actually experience them at the same time, and we can, one doesn't cancel out the other. So we can look to those moments of joy that we can experience even alongside the other things, and find ways in our lives to do joy.
It's a perfect transition to a gratitude meditation. So,
Rabbi Zeff, you stole my devar of this Saturday.
People can never hear it too much.
So let's close our eyes if you're comfortable, and if you're not, you can just softly gaze a few feet in front of you on the floor. Take a few deep breaths. Bringing you here to your seat. Noticing the sounds around you. Noticing where you feel your breath most prominently, in your belly or your chest or your nostrils and throat. Becoming aware of your body from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes, slowly scanning down. When you're finished returning to your breath, to start bringing awareness to the miracle of your breath. Being able to breathe smoothly, relatively clean air. The breath that keeps us alive. Following your breath and being grateful for each cycle of inhalation and exhalation. Enjoying the pleasantness of simply breathing. And then bringing awareness to your body. Our bodies are not perfect, but for the purpose of this meditation, bring your awareness to the parts of your body that are living with ease. And bring your awareness to all of your senses. Aware that you have sight, smell, taste, hearing, touch. This allows us to do so much. Considering what each of your senses enables you to do. What beauty have you seen with your eyes? What incredible music have you heard with your ears? Delicious meals you've tasted with your mouth. Hugs and kisses from loved ones that you've felt. Everyday miracles. If your mind wanders away, Just bring it back to your breath. And now, starting with your most immediate loved ones, calling to mind the people for whom you are grateful. Close family members, close friends, colleagues, people who have listened to you, supported you, pushed you to be better, cared about you, and loved you. Bring them to mind clearly. Feel them. Consider how much richer your life is for their being in it. Bringing to mind people you've never met, but who have worked on your behalf to make the world better, whose work you've benefited from in your life and the lives of the people that you care about. Our beautiful planet that sustains us with its soil and its air and its water and its trees. Our incredible Jewish tradition, full of questioning and stories and richness, and all of the people who have carried it down through generations against adversity. I'm going to sing the nigun, but this time I invite you to either open your eyes or keep them closed and keep your attention on all of those beautiful things that we are grateful for. You can sing with me or you can listen, trying to cultivate that feeling of gratitude as fully as possible.
So filled with gratitude, finding the joy in our past and the joys we can find in our present. We can go out through this month and through our days doing joy, maybe even spreading joy and finding joy at the center of our lives.